Hello to all fans of Naruto Lemon. I will post all Naruto Lemon Yaoi, Yuri, or Naruko Lemon stories only on the Boosty channel because Uncle YouTube condemns this. Therefore, I invite everyone who wants Naruto Lemon content to my Boosty channel. Good luck. And Kiba, who was not Sasuke's favorite anyway, will be relegated to the list of causing bad emotions. This set me up. Uzumaki exclaimed to the fox, who grinned without a twinge of conscience. Well, yes, what kind of conscience does a demon have? I told you that Shikamaru is the best addition to your dream team with the red-eyed one. Hyubi neighed again. I would see what would happen if this dog walker went down below your shoulder blade. It's been a long time since I enjoyed a bloody show performed by an Uchiha. You just want to make fun of me. The wrath of your Sharingan is a delight for the eyes, ears, and sensory receptors. You are so angry. This is my nature, Uzumaki. And I thought that your nature was butterflies and stars. Naruto quipped. I hasten to disappoint you. Kurama was clearly in a good mood. Having said a few more especially affectionate words, Uzumaki turned her attention to what was happening around her. Kiba no longer made advances towards her shoulders, back and other parts of the body, and Sasuke, as always, masterfully hid his feelings. Only Naruto felt anger and irritation tearing up. In the end, Naruto couldn't stand it anymore. She got up from her seat and, saying goodbye to all the guys, went out into the street to head home. The day was undoubtedly eventful and interesting, but she began to get tired. Although Naruto had to admit that a pleasant feeling of nostalgia settled in her chest. She remembered several similar days in the past, when several teams gathered at one table in their free time and talked. At such moments, Naruto felt light, calm, as if there were no problems in the world. Mostly, such gatherings took place before the war, when friends were alive and Sasuke was somewhere not in Konoha. Even though not all of her friends at that time could be near her, such gatherings were important to her. And at the end of this day, Naruto felt like a piece of something important was returning to her. Of course, they didn't just let her walk home. As soon as she reached the nearest alley, she was grabbed rather roughly and dragged into it. The girl didn't even resist, she knew this would happen. Naruto looked into her lover's face as he pressed her against the cold wall. Sasuke towered over her, holding her shoulder, but not causing pain. He looked at Naruto with his dark eyes, like a black hole, and the girl felt lost. And it wasn't the eyes, but the close, intimate position of their bodies. Naruto felt like an inexperienced teenager when the Uchiha spread her legs with his knee and leaned against the wall behind the girl. They became even closer to each other. Sasuke put his hand on her neck, pulling her towards him. Naruto rested her forehead against her lover's, closing her eyes. They stood there for a few seconds until the Uchiha leaned down and kissed her. There was no tenderness in this kiss, there was passion, there was a desire to show who Naruto belonged to. The Uzumaki bit Sasuke's lower lip and pulled it back with her teeth. Calm down, Uchiha. Naruto breathed out directly into her lover's lips. Sasuke pressed his lips to the girl's again, instantly penetrating her mouth. Their tongues collided in a furious, passionate dance, intertwining. Naruto pulled away for a second, and then, when Sasuke pulled her away from the wall a little, placing her hands on the small of her back, she ran her tongue along his lower lip, licking the small wound. Naruto put her hands on his neck, clasped them together, and kissed him again, giving all the power in this moment to the Uchiha. Sasuke, of course, took advantage of the opportunity. He pulled out Naruto's lower lip, then his upper, and then burst into her mouth. Tongues collided again, only this time it was different. Sasuke led, Naruto obeyed. She followed her lover, completely dissolving in the feelings that engulfed them. The Uchiha was the first to pull away. He pressed his forehead to hers again and gently ran his fingers over her cheek. His eyes were closed, so Naruto moved away slightly. Sasuke looked straight into her eyes and grinned, shaking his head. You are so possessive, Uchiha. Uzumaki said quietly. It was this moment that Shikamaru chose to appear in the alley. He was grinning and clearly pleased with himself, so Naruto removed her hands from her lover's neck. You set me up. It was cruel. Naruto shook his head, not at all angry with his comrade. It's like you're complaining. Nara said with obvious mockery. Sasuke chuckled and walked away from Naruto to walk towards the house. Uzumaki followed him and soon the whole trio found themselves on the main street. How did you even convince Kiba? He asked a logical question to Sasuke. I didn't even have to persuade him. Shikamaru shrugged. His ability to act impulsively will lead him to death one day. We were talking, and he asked a question about you, Naruto. I said you're interested in him. She was really interested in Inuzuka. As a person. As a comrade, but not as a possible candidate for a mate. Sasuke and his miscarriages are enough for her. Only you didn't specify in what way. Naruto chuckled. He didn't specify this. If he had asked, I would have answered, but he decided everything for himself. You're just a cunning, insidious, resourceful fox. Uzumaki laughed. I had good teachers. Nara noted phlegmatically. Team 10 was doing well, but Kiba had obviously made an enemy in the Uchiha. As always, Inuzuka became an example of true bad luck. Something strange was happening at the border of the countries. Naruto, Sasuke, and Shikamaru, once Kakashi and Obito returned, were sent on a secret mission. Its essence was that it was necessary to check the borders of the country and write about all suspicious activity. Team 10, like true shinobi, did not ask the Hokage any unnecessary questions, but they noticeably tensed. Since the fire country was large, the mission was expected to last for a long period. Minato said several months, but it all depended on their speed. Later, when Kakashi asked why this particular team, Namikaze replied that they had much more endurance and strength than other shinobi. And Minato couldn't trust others, and the best and most experienced shinobi in his village vouched for Naruto, Sasuke, and Shikamaru. Therefore, soon the entire team of 10 left for the mission. Of course, the situation on the borders was strange. During the time that the team was on the border, they observed several battlefields. There were obvious skirmishes in some places, and a dozen corpses of Konoha shinobi were discovered, as well as several from unknown villages. Kakashi and Obito reported all this to the Hokage, who said to continue testing the boundaries. Apparently, it was the disappearance of the shinobi that worried Minato, so he sent them to check, and causing unnecessary panic prematurely would cost himself more. Now Namikaze will be convinced that something strange, incomprehensible, and alarming is happening at the borders. We have very little left. Obito said when the team stopped for another break. They ran all day without a break, so by evening they began to noticeably get tired. The captains decided it was best to take a break. They have about a week left to explore the entire border, and then they can run home. Then they ran to the village for about a day, and after that Minato promised them a 2-week rest. Kakashi and Obito actually left for this mission immediately after returning from the previous one. They didn't even spend a day at home. Rin was extremely dissatisfied with this fact, but she could not do anything. Her husband was one of Minato's confidants. Still, I don't like all this. Shikamaru shook his head, leaning against a tree. He sat down on the ground, leaned his back against the trunk, crossed his legs, and folded his arms over his chest. Naruto took an observation position on the same tree, and Sasuke, Kakashi, and Obito sat on futons and warmed their hands. October was approaching the fire country, and it was becoming noticeably colder. This was especially felt in the evening and at night. Sasuke, of course, didn't bring warm clothes for himself, so Naruto took care of that too. The girl took him a warm scarf and a jacket, which he accepted to the accompaniment of a quiet grumbling and rolling of his eyes. Shika, accustomed to this, only grinned, but Obito and Kakashi were amazed. Naruto placed warming seals on the futons so that her beloved comrades would not catch a cold and sleep comfortably. Kurama called her a mother hen and mother of worthless shinobi, to which Uzumaki only sarcastically and rolled her eyes. Nobody likes this, Hatake said. Most of the attacks occurred on the border with the Earth country, said Naruto, simultaneously scanning the area and listening to her partners. The further we went from it, the less signs of battle there were. It can't just be like that. Next to the country of Earth is the country of Wind. Remember, we found one shinobi from that country. Mostly all the victims were from Konoha, but one stood out. There were also bodies of unknown shinobi. They had no identification marks, no protectors, nothing. It was obvious that these were the attackers, but nothing more could be found out. What united the unknowns was a square, carved into the skin. Shikamaru assumed that there were always several attackers on one group and the comrades of the dead man cut out something noticeable and important. Was there any information from Suna? Sasuke asked, looking at the captains. Naruto frowned. The last time she received a letter from Gaara was when she returned to Konoha. If something important and serious was happening, he would definitely tell her. Although the Jinchuriki was not the Kazekage now, he was definitely close to his father. The dog mentioned that he was being prepared as a successor. Of course, she was not surprised by this fact. Naruto believed that being Kage was Gaara's destiny. As far as I know, nothing has been reported. Kakashi shook his head. Sasuke looked at Naruto, stood up from his seat and jumped onto her branch. Uzumaki leaned towards him and said quietly. If there was something, Gaara would have said it. Or Temari. She was here a few months ago as the village's ambassador, and she didn't say anything out of the ordinary. The girl shrugged. All right to him. The Uchiha nodded his head. Naruto chuckled and, leaving an observation position for her comrade, went down to Shikamaru. The night was falling quickly, so the shinobi decided to go to bed early, leaving Obito and Sasuke to control the order. And everything was calm. A few hours later they were replaced by Shikamaru, and in the morning Kakashi and Naruto took over, giving their comrades a rest. The Uzumaki was full of energy, so she even prepared breakfast, packed rations, to be precise, for her comrades. An hour later, the Uchihas woke up, then Shikamaru, and a few hours later everything didn't go as expected. They got into a fight. It would seem that everything started well. Having woken up, Team 10 again set off on the road, having breakfast with the remains of dry rations. They had been running for about 2 hours when Naruto sensed 3 chakras ahead. Konokovitz had to speed up, but they still only made it to the end. One sand shinobi fought against 2 unknown people. As Uzumaki felt, the first one's chakra was completely running out, so the girl immediately entered into battle. Shikamaru held the 2 opponents back with shadows as Naruto approached them from behind. Sasuke walked around to the other side and attacked from the front, diverting attention from the victim. Kakashi and Obito, noticing that their students were busy with the attackers, rushed to the aid of the sand shinobi. He had many wounds, blood was flowing from his mouth, and his legs could not support him at all. The elder Uchiha chuckled and called Shikamaru to provide at least some medical assistance. Will he live? Kakashi asked, watching Naruto and Sasuke out of the corner of his eye, who were fighting against 2 other shinobi. He noted that the team's opponents were quite strong, about the level of a jounin, but his students confidently held their own against them. Uzumaki and her clones were pushing the enemy into an obvious trap, just like the Uchiha. They wanted to lure the shinobi to one place so that they could knock out both of them with one attack. Hatake was once again amazed at their mutual understanding and teamwork, because the 2 never said a word during the process. He has a rupture of internal organs, Shikamaru said, shaking his head. If he is not quickly taken to the hospital, he will die. He was very badly beaten up. Nara moved green chakra through his body, healing the least serious injuries and prolonging the life of the young Chunin. Some injuries required major surgery, something he clearly couldn't provide here. Yes, although he had knowledge in the field of Iren and Jutsu, he did not have sufficient skills. No matter how much he liked to heal people, he was still a fighting shinobi. I won't be able to support him for long. We'll lose him. Obito shook his head. Meanwhile, Naruto and Sasuke were pushing back their opponents. Now both enemy shinobi were pressed against a stone cliff. And the Uzumaki and Uchiha were approaching them in absolutely synchronization. All nearby fighters felt a sharp release of threatening ki, which literally pinned the opponents to the spot. Sasuke smirked as the enemies cowered under his influence, and Naruto finished them off with a bright flash of her eyes. Kurama's gaze always terrified people. "Do you want to tell us who you are?" asked Uzumaki. "Or don't you want to?" the Uchiha said, drawing out his words. "Your fate depends on your decision, remember this." "They don't want to talk." The girl chuckled when she didn't get any answers from her opponents. Sasuke's eyes glowed bright red and the tomo began to spin at incredible speeds. One of the shinobi opened his mouth in a silent scream, but could not utter a word. He soon passed out, and the second shinobi stubbornly pursed his lips. "Still don't want to say anything?" Sasuke asked. Naruto smirked when she noticed how the shinobi looked away from the Uchiha. She felt fear and despair growing in him, but hope did not extinguish. Hope for what? That he will be saved? The girl shook her head. In an instant, the shinobi's eyes found Sasuke's hand, and that's when he was caught. The Uchiha twitched his fingers slightly, attracting his attention, then raised them up and grinned. Soon the enemy's eyes closed, and he fell flat on the ground. Naruto walked towards her enemies, formed a series of seals and placed paralyzing seals and seals on the chakra hotspot. "We need to get them to Konoha," Naruto said as she examined the bodies. She looked at the place where pieces of skin had been cut out from previous bodies, and found a certain symbol there. It was just a black circle. An ordinary circle, nothing special. She frowned, not understanding the meaning of this drawing. "Naruto." Obito called his student. The girl looked in their direction, nodded to Sasuke, and walked up to her comrades. "We need to get him to Konoha." Shikamaru nodded towards the victim. "Only there they will be able to provide him with proper help. At least a day until Konoha." When running fast and without a break. The girl pursed her lips. "We need to slow down his life activity, then there is a chance to convey." Fuinjutsu. Kakashi nodded. The Uzumaki possessed seals that could do this. They saved many lives in the war. There are such seals, yes, but they have always been used by the Uzumaki Irenen, pouring healing chakra into a person. Usually such seals lasted for 2 or 3 hours, and then they required updating. Naruto thought about it. During the journey, it turned out that Tsunade and Jiraiya kept a huge number of scrolls in which the Uzumaki recorded their knowledge. They gave these scrolls to Naruto, saying that they themselves had tried to master a lot of this, but nothing had worked out for them. The Sannin were only able to learn a small fraction of what was written in the scrolls. In these notes, Naruto found a lot of information about healing seals. It turns out that some Uzumaki provided great assistance to the Irenen and were themselves quite good doctors, saving people's lives with seals. There were few such shinobi, but they existed, and they wrote down all their knowledge in scrolls. At first, Naruto did not see the point in these seals, since she did not have healing skills, but in the end she decided to learn. You never know. I know these seals, but I don't have healing chakra. And no one can give it to me. The girl pursed her lips, turning over all the known seals and techniques in her head. Soon Sasuke came up to her and put his hand on her shoulder. "There is one option, but I'm not sure about it. We have nothing left to lose." Kakashi shook his head. "If there is at least some chance, then you need to use it." Naruto sighed. "If we use that seal?" "Remember, I read it in one of the scrolls. It was rarely used because it required perfect control, which Uzumaki were rarely able to achieve. It is placed on the chakra hearth, exactly in its middle, and then another seal is placed on the left atrium. A miscalculation by a millimeter and the shinobi can no longer be saved. Dangerous seal. But you have no choice." Kurama agreed. "You can't hesitate. Uzumaki sighed, closed her eyes and calmed down. She needs to slow down the flow of her chakra and turn off all her senses, focusing on the sensations of the victim. He had been passed out for a long time, but for some reason his heart was beating very quickly, and his chakra was circulating slowly. Did you feel it? His chakra focus is damaged. She turned to Shikamaru. He nodded. Naruto closed her eyes again and began to form the seals needed for this technique. A few moments, and the first part was completed. There was a seal on the hearth, which slowed down the current even more. If Naruto had not put the seal, she would have decided that the shinobi was dead. The chakra circulated so slowly. Next, a seal was placed on the heart. Naruto placed it exactly in the area of the left atrium, without missing a millimeter. Shikamaru, who had been treating him all this time, was able to breathe out a sigh of relief. We need to quickly run to Konoha, he won't last until night. Nara said. These need to be taken there too. The Uchiha said, nodding towards the two bodies. His seal needs to be renewed in 6 hours. Naruto pursed his lips. Sasuke and I will finish the mission, and you should run to Konoha. Kakashi said. Uzumaki nodded her head. She quickly sealed hers, Shikamaru's and Obito's things in a scroll and gave it to Sasuke to put in his backpack. She threw the injured shinobi onto her back, and Shikamaru and Obito, the other two, who were still passed out. We'll be back in a week, we'll try to finish it quickly. Be careful. Naruto chuckled, getting ready to run. Long run. Don't forget to eat and wear warm clothes. The girl looked expressively at Sasuke, who rolled his eyes. Go already. The younger Uchiha snorted. Late at night, Naruto found herself in the village. She had to speed up and move ahead of her comrades, since her cargo urgently required treatment. She had to renew his seal about an hour before Konoha, because it was running out, and before that she was about halfway to the village. Shikamaru then checked the victim one last time and sent Naruto forward. When the girl ran up to the gate, she was met by two Chunin who didn't even know what to do. Naruto barked at them, told them to urgently call Minato, Jiraiya, and Tsunade, and ran to the hospital. Her legs were falling off, her body was not listening, and her strength was running out, but the desire to save this man overpowered everything else. She was met at the hospital by Sakura, who was on duty, and Shizune, who was getting ready to go home. She, of course, postponed her plans, because the matter did not require delay. Tsunade appeared exactly at the moment when Naruto placed the shinobi's body on the table. Why can't you just come from a mission? Tsunade sighed, starting to scan the patient's body. I need to remove the seals from him to restore his vital functions. I can't do this without the support of the ironing, so be ready. I don't know how his body will react to this. He needs surgery. The chakra focus is severely damaged, organ ruptures. Kami, who did this to him? What kind of seals? Did Shikamaru heal him? Bombarded Senju with questions. Those who did this are being brought here by Obito-sensei and Shikamaru. If we had not intervened, they would have killed him. Shikamaru kept him alive while Sasuke and I fought against the attackers, said Naruto, gradually removing the seals. This also required special precision, but it was still easier than installing them. I saw this Fuinjutsu once during the war. And in the Uzumaki scrolls I read about him. Tsunade pursed her lips. You must tell me everything. Naruto exhaled when she removed all the seals, giving the victim into the hands of the doctors. You need a break. The fox growled, worried about the condition of his Jinchuriki. I know. But I need to wait for Shikamaru and Obito. Minato will obviously want to talk. Send chakra through your body, please, we need to hold out a little longer. The girl sighed. She left the hospital just as the Hokage moved towards the entrance. He frowned at his daughter. Hokage-sama. Naruto bowed slightly to him, sensing the approach of Shikamaru and Obito. They should reach Konoha in about 20 minutes, and they would obviously need help. Although they took some breaks, when Naruto ran away from them, the shinobi were very tired. Even Uzumaki, possessing enormous endurance, was in a state of inability to stand. I was urgently called on your orders. What's happened? Why are you in the village? Minato asked sharply. In the morning, we got involved in a battle in which 2 unknown people and Sand Shinobi took part. The latter was exhausted and extremely unstable. He needed to be urgently taken to Konoha, to Tsunade-san. Therefore, I was sent along with him to be taken to the hospital by evening. We have neutralized 2 of the attackers. Obito-sensei and Shikamaru will now bring them. Naruto said briefly, having only one desire, to go to bed and sleep for several days. Kakashi-sensei and Sasuke stayed at the border to finish the mission. Understood. Namikaze nodded, running into the hospital. Naruto shook her head and walked towards the gate to meet her comrades. Shikamaru and Obito arrived half an hour later. Their companions, still paralyzed, mumbled something inaudibly, irritating everyone with their talk. When the shinobi entered the gate, the chunin sitting there didn't even say anything, they just nodded their heads and sighed heavily. If only you knew how much I wanted to throw them off. Shikamaru said phlegmatically. Naruto nodded in understanding, walking toe-to-toe with her comrade. The shinobi decided not to run, since there was no point in it, but they still wanted to quickly throw off this burden. They've been mooing for several hours now. I hope they will be so talkative during interrogation. Obito snorted. Ibiki-san will talk to them. Naruto chuckled. Minato is waiting for us, I think, and then we can go rest. At least I'm not going to do anything else. If these 2 don't tell me anything useful, I'll just kill them. The Uchiha said irritably. It's not for nothing that we carried them through the forests, listening to the mooing. I won't say that it was the best musical accompaniment. The shinobi quickly reached the Hokage's residence. Minato and Marino Ibiki met them right at the entrance, with raised eyebrows. Shikamaru and Obito with a clear conscience handed over their burden to the 2 chunin who appeared next to Namikaze. The 2 went to the interrogation room to leave the attackers there until tomorrow morning. I need to remove the seal from them, otherwise tomorrow, there will be nothing left of them but vegetables. Naruto said as she followed the chunin. Ibiki walked behind everyone, as if bringing up the rear of the procession, and Shikamaru and Obito, together with Namikaze, went into the office. In the interrogation room, they resolved everything quickly. Naruto removed the paralysis seals from the shinobi, leaving the seals on the chakra. Marino handcuffed his attackers, tied them to a chair, and left them alone in the interrogation room with sadistic pleasure. When the seal of paralysis was removed, the shinobi were able to speak, their mooing stopped. There was a crowd in Minato's office for some reason: Obito, Shikamaru, Itachi, Yoichi, and Shursui. What the last 3 were doing here, Naruto didn't even want to know, because her brain was too tired. We'll arrange the interrogation tomorrow morning. Minato said as his daughter entered the office. Itachi, Shursui, you will participate in this. I need all the information you can get. The situation is becoming more serious. If shinobi continue to die, panic will begin. Not only in our village, but also in others. This is a Sand Shinobi, we need to report to Suna. Obito said. I will send an urgent message to the Kazekage in the morning. Minato nodded. Now I need all the details of this incident. Obito began the story with all the details, focusing on the behavior of the attackers. Naruto then described the symbol that was on the shinobi's hands, learning that none of those present had seen such things before. Half an hour later, when they had answered all the questions from Minato, Itachi, and Shursui, Jiraiya and Tsunade burst into the office. They reported that the patient would live, but was unlikely to be able to continue his activities as a shinobi. Its focus is so damaged that the chakra circulates very, very slowly. Some chakra channels simply stopped working. The internal organs of the Irionin have been patched up and healed, but the shinobi from the sand require long-term recovery and care. Let's hope he has a family to take care of him. Jiraiya said, shaking his head. The only thing he can do with such an injury is teaching at the academy. If the recovery goes well, he will be able to use chakra in small quantities. Tsunade added. When are Sasuke and Kakashi-san coming back? Itachi asked. In about a week, said Shikamaru. You can be free. Namikaze sighed, and Naruto was glad to hear these words more than ever before. She was already tired of listening to Kurama's grumbling, who continued to drive chakra through her channels. When the shinobi left the Hokage's office, he exhaled and relaxed in his chair. He rubbed his forehead with his hand and looked out the window. He couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of the whole doomsday that awaited their village soon. The night promises to be long. Sasuke, may I ask a question? Kakashi asked, coming from afar. The Uchiha looked at him and raised one eyebrow, without saying a word. In general, the completion of the mission was extremely silent. During the entire week that these shinobi spent at the border, they spoke very little and only to the point. Kakashi was even unusual, because usually Obito or Naruto and Shikamaru, discussing something and telling stories, broke up the silence. And Sasuke, like Hatake himself, were taciturn people, so their dialogues were limited to short phrases. Sasuke sincerely respected his sensei. He was a kind of example for him both in his home world and in this one, but it cannot be said that they had much in common and that they were close people. When Sasuke came into this world, he promised himself that he would become worthy of his team. And although at first, when he found out about Obito and the new composition of the team, it was difficult for him, in principle, to be in the company of the above-mentioned, but still he resigned himself and accepted the current situation. The Uchiha truly valued both Obito and Kakashi as his mentors, but they were never close to him. Team 10 was a family, no doubt, which makes it even simpler. Not all the people in the family are close. They trusted each other on missions, covered each other's backs, protected each other. Each of them was ready to turn the world upside down to save the other, but some of the bonds between the team were stronger than others. For example, Sasuke, Naruto, and Shikamaru were more attached to each other than to their mentors, but Uzumaki also harbored strange feelings towards Obito. One day she said that she was happy for him. She was pleased that this man, at least in some of the worlds, found peace and peace of mind. Perhaps the Jinchuriki felt some responsibility for the elder Uchiha. She herself could not explain what she felt. If we take others as an example, not counting the relationship between Kakashi and Obito, the connection between which was obvious, Shikamaru showed special affection for Hatake. It was Kakashi who became for him an example of respect, love and devotion to his work and his comrades. Nara said that some of the words of the copier helped him realize and accept all the information about Sasuke and Naruto that they dumped on him several years ago. If we talk specifically about the younger Uchiha, then his special affection, his strongest connection, is undoubtedly Naruto. Sasuke truly respected Kakashi from his home world because he helped him settle back into Konoha. Of course, at first there was a huge wall of mistrust and a small amount of contempt between them, but it fell when the Uchiha proved his loyalty. And Kakashi always understood that this was devotion not to the village, not to him as Hokage, not even to the duty of a shinobi. For Sasuke, his loyalty to Naruto Uzumaki came first, and that's what he proved to Hatake. The mentor and student found a common language when the former realized that the Jinchuriki was the link between Sasuke and the village, and that as long as Naruto was faithful to her duty, and she was always faithful to him, Sasuke Uchiha would be loyal to Konoha. After the war, Kakashi faced a heavy burden, a country in ruins, only just established relations between the great states, a returning Nukenin with a sense of guilt and reluctance to admit anything other than himself, and his eternal girlfriend rival, intent on whatever it didn't make him a normal person out of his comrade. Hatake had to keep an eye on all this, involve Anbu and other shinobi so that the war heroes did not do something irreparable. That is why Sasuke respected this man even more. He managed to keep everything in his hands and prevent the village from falling even lower than it already was. The Kakashi from this world was not the same as Sasuke knew him in childhood and adolescence, although not much, his behavior and habits were different. Hatake really became a mentor for the 10th team. He practically stopped being late, smiled and joked more often, and communicated more. The Uchiha decided that it was the merit of Rin and Obito, who remained alive in this world, and Minato, who continued to be the commander for this team. Kakashi had close and dear people in this world, which played a significant role in the formation of his personality. Sasuke respected him simply because he was a good mentor for the 10th team, that he supported them, that he helped and believed. Kakashi didn't do anything special, but he simply was, he simply believed, he simply taught, and this was more important than all actions or exploits. I know that we have never been close, Sensei began with a blur of judgment that was surprising for him. Usually he asked directly, without preamble or introduction. But I always wanted to understand you. You are one of the strangest people I have ever met, and almost the most private. We've been on the same team for several years now, but I have a question, do I know the real you? Do we all know the real you? You are a closed book to me. Kakashi-sensei, I'm no more private than you. The Uchiha shook his head. Do we know the real you? Sometimes I wonder if I know myself. Kakashi answered calmly. There was a lot in my life, and there were moments when I lost myself. I didn't know what to do or how to live further. I changed, grew up, saw even more things that I didn't like. Eventually, I just got tired of changing. I have become who I am now, but sometimes I don't understand myself. Your life has not been easy, just like mine. I lost myself many times, drowned my feelings, or vice versa, gave myself over to them completely. Sometimes I thought that I was broken, that I shouldn't be like this, but I continued to do, think, feel what I didn't want. Probably, this was the longest speech that Sasuke made in the presence of Kakashi, so he now listened to it all with imaginary calm, although something incomprehensible was going on in his soul. I don't trust anyone in my clan, any of the people. I am a loner by nature, just like you. And I also wonder if I know myself. But I have people who know me in a way that I don't know myself. Kakashi said understandingly. Sasuke looked at him, shook his head and looked away again towards the night sky. Yes, and these are the people I am ready to entrust my life to. Sometimes I think that they are a part of me, because I cannot imagine my life without them. The Uchiha admitted honestly. What would have happened if Naruto hadn't saved him every time? What would happen if she gave up trying to win him back? What would happen if Itachi, both from his home world and from this one, simply did not exist? Sasuke hoped that he would never know the answers to these questions, because it was painful just to imagine. His heart ached relentlessly every time he thought about one of these scenarios. You and I have more in common than I thought. Sasuke literally felt Hatake grinning after these words. It is obvious that not only the Uchiha thought about their team and the connections within it. It's not to say that after this conversation the Uchiha felt something different towards the sensei. He still respected him, was still ready to cover his back and vice versa, to turn his back to him so that he would cover him. They were still a team, but maybe something had changed. Sasuke definitely understood Kakashi better than before. And this conversation definitely helped to understand not only the local Hatake, but also Kakashi from his home world. The completion of the mission went smoothly, except for this conversation. Kakashi and Sasuke made it the rest of the way in a week, meeting several Konoha shinobi as they fled to or from missions. They also talked to people who had been at the border for a long time. They said that something strange was happening here. Shinobi actually began to disappear, and some letters, as far as Hatake understood, did not even reach Minato. One Jounin said that he sent the Hokage a letter several months ago, in which he told about his missing comrade. Since Minato kept track of the shinobi at the border only through letters, apparently the loss of them also alerted him. Jounin said that he never received an answer, which was already strange, since Namikaze always answers his charges, explaining to them their further actions. And here there is no answer, no hi, as they say. Yes, it was already clear that Minato did not receive any letters, because otherwise he would have long been concerned about this matter. Or at least he would have told Kakashi and Obito about it. And if letters really went missing, then how many more did Minato not receive? How many people wrote to the Hokage about problems at the borders, and the letters simply disappeared? How long has all this been going on? There were a lot of questions, but, obviously, it was impossible to get answers to them. What do you think? Kakashi asked after talking with that shinobi. Something is coming, the Uchiha said gloomily. And no one will like this something. Kakashi didn't even have anything to add. Another funny incident happened at the border. In fact, Sasuke was sincerely having fun in his heart, but, of course, he did not show it, and this incident will forever remain in his memory as Kakashi Hataki's moment of shame. He even wondered if something similar had happened to the 6th Hokage from his home world. So, this happened in one of the border villages of the Fire Country. Kakashi and Sasuke decided to run there to relax on the soft beds rather than the hard futon. In general, there were few such villages. Team 10 visited 2 during the entire mission, so stumbling upon one like this was real luck for Sasuke. However, Kakashi did not share his opinion, as he became more and more nervous as he approached the village. Even the Uchiha was surprised by his mentor's behavior. When they entered the village, Hatake immediately began to look around, as if he was looking for someone, but did not betray his nervousness in any way. If Sasuke wasn't an experienced shinobi, he wouldn't even notice this, but he was, so this whole situation interested him very much. Of course, he didn't ask Hatake anything, but continued to observe. When Kakashi didn't find what he was looking for and he looked for a long time, they went to the hotel to get a room. The most ordinary room for 2 people, there was nothing strange in it, so the shinobi settled safely in it. And the evening passed calmly. Sasuke and Kakashi took a shower, had dinner at the local canteen, and then returned to the room and went about their business. Sasuke read the scrolls that Uzumaki left him, and Kakashi read some book, the contents of which the Uchiha did not want to know. The night passed as calmly as the evening. The fun, for Sasuke, began at dawn. It would seem like an ordinary morning, 2 shinobi sleeping in warm beds and unaware of what was coming. The next moment, a loud knock was heard on the door of the room, which made Sasuke and Kakashi jump up with kunai in their hands. The Uchiha stood naked to the waist, and Hatake, on the contrary, was fully dressed, even wearing a mask. The 2 shinobi looked at each other as the knocking on the door became even louder. Sasuke went to open the door, completely not noticing Kakashi's eyes widening in realization of something and his waving of his arms. Before the Uchiha could pull the door towards himself, it opened with a crash, almost knocking the strong and experienced shinobi off his feet. Sasuke managed to jump away from the door, flying at him at the last moment when a woman burst into the room. Although no, a traveler through the worlds would say differently, a miniature lady burst in, too petite for her character. The woman rushed like a hurricane towards Kakashi, who watched her movements in silent horror. This all happened in just a few seconds. Now Sasuke begins to open the door. Now he is already standing far from the door, watching how this fury fell at Kakashi's feet. The lady was very small, she reached the shinobi to the chest, so everything looked even more comical. "Madoka, what are you doing here?" Kakashi asked in a calm voice, and Sasuke was struck by the irony of the situation. Madoka means calm, but this lady definitely doesn't smell like calm. Not at all. The woman looked at the shinobi with the most evil look, and then hit the man in the leg with all her might. The petite woman kicked Konoha's experienced Jounin copy ninja, Kakashi Hatake, in the leg, causing him to hiss in pain and fall to his knees. Then the lady Madoka hit him on the head, causing the shinobi to fall onto his back, and stars began to dance before his eyes. However, the situation in this room changed at the speed of jet jerboas, so the next moment Kakashi was already on his feet and trying to protect his body parts from the attack of this woman. "What am I doing here?" Madoka said in a surprisingly calm voice. She was clearly on edge, so her firm voice, without trembling or squealing, was something unusual. "What am I doing here?" Sasuke was ready to swear that if the lady had chakra and ki, she would have already crushed everyone here with her power. Madoka, let's talk calmly. The copy man tried to reason with the woman, but only angered her even more. Hatake, who seemed to have forgotten all shinobi skills, the next moment jumped out the window to avoid Madoka's boot from hitting his head. Sasuke himself had to jump away when the woman ran to the window to cover the fleeing shinobi with curses. Even the Uchiha did not know such curses. Then she ran out of the room at the speed of light. Apparently, she went to catch up with the offender. Kakashi showed up at the room 2 hours later, all rumpled and bruised. His mask was torn in several places, and a scratch ran through the exposed half of his face. Entering the room, he asked if this crazy woman was there, to which he received a negative answer. Sasuke was wondering what he did to this Madoka and who beat him like that, but he didn't open his mouth. It would seem that everything had calmed down, but this was a mistaken opinion. When the shinobi were already planning to quickly escape from this village, a woman burst into the room again, this time almost killing Kakashi with the door. Madoki opened this piece of furniture with her foot, looking not at the one she needed, but at Sasuke. She looked the Uchiha up and down, snorted and began to twist her head. Kakashi, who was hiding behind the door, Sasuke mentally hit himself on the forehead, because, behind the door. Seriously, Kakashi-sensei? He sighed heavily and swallowed. Madoki smiled bloodthirstily when she heard this. There you are, honey. She chuckled, pulling Kakashi out from behind the door. Madoki, please, you got it all wrong. The experienced shinobi begged, like a guilty genin. I can explain everything. Yes? Try to explain to me how you left me 7 years ago, promising to return as soon as possible. How he said all sorts of things to me, and then dumped me like some disposable girl. The lady literally growled. Madoki, we only had one night. I didn't promise you anything. Kakashi said nervously, obviously remembering something. Inside Sasuke, everything that was possible was dying and writhing with laughter. Although outwardly he was absolutely calm. The Uchiha stood on the windowsill, folding his arms across his chest and closing the emergency exit for his sensei. Definitely one of the best moments Sasuke has seen in his life. You said you would come back. That we will meet again. Madoki exclaimed. The Uchiha raised an eyebrow, surprised, because Hatake was definitely not a windbag. I said that maybe we will meet again someday. Hatake sighed heavily, dodging a flying boot. It was you who then pursued me to start a family and children with me. I immediately told you that I am a shinobi and that I was passing through your village. So you just took advantage of me for one night? The woman exclaimed in anger. Did you think that I was some kind of slutty girl who could just give herself to the first person she came across? You jumped into my bed, I warned you. Sasuke really wanted to laugh at the absurdity of it all. He never thought that he would witness Kakashi Hatake suffer because of a random one-night stand. Let's be honest, in the life of a shinobi, there are different things, different events, so such an oversight on Kakashi's part was not something surprising. More precisely, it is not surprising that even the noble copying one did not deny himself pleasure for one night, but it is surprising that this has consequences. Shinobi are usually more careful in choosing their partners for the night. Obviously, Kakashi miscalculated somewhere. Very much. You took advantage of a weak woman. Weak? Kakashi asked nervously. Kakashi. I don't want to see you anymore. You ruined my whole life. The lady said in anger, running out of the room and loudly slamming the door. Hatake sighed in relief when he and Sasuke were alone. He looked hauntedly at his grinning student and shook his head. Is there a chance that the team won't find out about this? Asked the copy man. Kakashi-sensei, if Naruto and Obito don't find out about this from me, I won't be able to live. Sasuke jumped off the windowsill and took his backpack. You wouldn't know that they'll find out anyway. You're so angry. Hatake sighed. I'm just saving my life. The Uchiha shrugged. At my cost. We are all a little selfish. Sasuke remarked philosophically. Let's get out of here, quickly, before Madoka decides that she still wants to see me. Oh, Sasuke will definitely tell Naruto about this. At the end of the mission, Sasuke and Kakashi moved towards Konoha. The Uchiha really wanted to return home because even though he had spent a year without Naruto in the summoning world, he still felt calmer when he felt her next to him. Or at least knew where she was and what she was doing. He also had a bad feeling about it. Sasuke was never an alarmist or a predictor, but when incomprehensible anxiety and excitement settled in his chest, he tried to quickly do everything to make this feeling disappear. And now his soul was literally yearning for Konoha, as if something terrible and important was happening there. Kakashi, seeing some nervousness in the Uchiha, also began to worry. They even sped up to get home faster. When Konoha was a few hours away, Sasuke and Kakashi came across a group of sand shinobi. To a familiar group. Gaara, Kankuro, and Temari made a stop in one small clearing in the forest, and Team 10 safely walked right into them. The dog but waved at them when the shinobi stopped near them. Are you in Konoha? Sasuke asked, shaking Gaara's hand. He also nodded politely to Kankuro and Temari, to which they smiled at him. Kakashi was a little surprised that Sasuke knew Team Sand, but then he remembered about the Chunin exam. Although it was surprising that the Uchiha and the One-Tails Jinchuriki communicated as if they were old acquaintances, they only met once. There's probably a lot he doesn't know about the Uchiha. Yes, the Hokage wrote to our father about the shinobi that they found at the border. Gaara nodded, folding his arms over his chest. Sasuke frowned. Something was wrong. We found him. Kakashi said. More than a week ago. Naruto, Shikamaru, and Obito carried him and his attackers to our village. While Sasuke and I remained to finish the mission. Did he survive? Sasuke asked. The Hokage wrote that he is in serious condition, but alive. Kankuro inserted the word. Gaara and Temari nodded. You can rest with us, we will move to Konoha in a couple of hours. They should arrive by evening. Kakashi nodded his head, and Sasuke sighed heavily as his chest continued to tighten with unpleasant feelings. At first, everyone sat in an incomprehensible silence, eating dry rations, but soon Kakashi surprisingly locked tongue with Temari and Kankuro, who captivated him with a conversation about training and techniques. When the three were engrossed in conversation and not paying attention to the other two shinobi, Gaara and Sasuke looked at each other and walked away from them. Naruto wrote to you? Asked the Uchiha. As the girl left with the wounded shinobi, she said that she would write to Gaara herself as soon as she got home. Naruto had to do it anyway. No, I was surprised when I didn't receive a letter from her about what was happening. Gaara nodded his head. I have a bad feeling. Sasuke said, looking around. Very bad, Gaara. Me too. Dog agreed. It hasn't left me for more than a week, as if something bad has happened or will happen. And I'm used to trusting my hunch. Shikaku is also nervous. More than usually. We urgently need to move to Konoha. The Jinchuriki of the One-Tail nodded. By the evening of this day, 5 shinobi were already near the gates of Konoha. And at first glance, everything was in order, no one was attacking the village, people were walking back and forth, nothing was destroyed or broken. But the worry only grew when Naruto didn't meet them at the gate. Sasuke knew that the girl would have sensed them and would definitely have met them, but she was not observed either at the gate or in the surrounding areas. Gaara, obviously noticing this, too, became even more wary. When the three from Suna and Team 10 found themselves in the Hokage's office, everything dragged on. Minato talked about the wounded shinobi who had arrived, then talked about the situation at the borders, and then listened to what Temari was telling him. It turns out that several of Sand's Chunin and Jounin had actually gone missing over the past few months, and Suna was worried about what was happening. They intended to move to Konoha when a letter arrived from Minato. Obviously, we need to do something. We need to find out what's going on. We've lost enough shinobi to begin an investigation. The Hokage frowned, although it is obvious that he began the investigation a long time ago. What about the attackers? Gaara asked. My best shinobi conducted the interrogation, but they couldn't find out anything worthwhile. Namikaze shook his head. They belong to an organization that does not belong to any village. They don't know who is giving them orders and why, they don't know what goals the organization is pursuing. They know absolutely nothing, but they were lured with speeches about a better life and that great countries are only getting in the way. You need to have one big country so that everyone lives in peace and harmony. This is some kind of nonsense. Kankuro growled. Are you sure they are not lying? The interrogation was conducted by representatives of the Uchiha clan. Shisui and Itachi. He threw a meaningful glance at Sasuke Minato. The Uchiha nodded understandingly, and everyone else looked at him with interest. If the interrogation was conducted by Itachi and Shisui, then most likely they used a special technique. The person it is used on cannot lie. Sasuke knew that Shisui had long possessed the Mangekyo Sharingan, which he was known for in his clan, but he did not know if Itachi possessed it. In his home world, the elder brother was very strong in the Tsukiyami technique, but did he have this strength in this world? Although now Sasuke was almost 100% sure that his brother had the Mangekyo Sharingan, all that remained was to find out how he got it and what powers he had. Then there was definitely one more problem in the world. Kakashi said the word. And no one had words to object to him. Kakashi, Sasuke, since you just came, you don't know. Naruto left on a mission about a week ago. Both Gaara and Sasuke frowned at the same time upon hearing this news. Minato spoke about the weekend after returning from the border. Why did Naruto go on a mission? And, obviously, alone. Should be back by the end of the month. The funny thing was that the month had just begun. As soon as the shinobi left the Hokage's office, Temari, Kankuro, and Kakashi walked towards the hotel where the guests were staying and to which Itachi was supposed to escort them. Gaara and Sasuke fell behind them a little so that the former could tell the latter something. Shikaku said that he felt the presence of the fox in the village. He can't say where, but he's definitely in the village. Gaara said quietly. We have two options, either the fox was transferred to another shinobi, or Naruto never left. The first is definitely excluded, so there is only one option left. Minato lied. Realizing this, Sasuke's eyes lit up bright red. He won't leave it that easily. We need to find Shikamaru. Sasuke said, intending to get his lover back as soon as possible. Will you find it? He turned to Gaara. He nodded. And I need to talk to Itachi and Shisui. Perhaps they can explain to me what is going on in this village. Sasuke was clearly on edge. Although Gaara didn't even think of condemning him, because he himself was on the verge of something terrible. His best friend, one of the people closest to him, was kept somewhere. They did something to her, but the guy could not do anything. He didn't know where she was because Shikaku couldn't exactly sense the fox's location. The raccoon said that something was holding back the Kyuubi's energy, so he could only feel its presence somewhere nearby. And if Gaara, who was always distinguished by his composure and clarity of thoughts, was ready to do something irreparable, then Sasuke, who was distinguished by his impulsiveness, almost did it. However, common sense told him that it was better to find out what was going on before blaming the Hokage for anything. After all, it is obvious that only this man knows where the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki is, and only he is capable of ordering his shinobi to do anything. Don't do anything stupid, Sasuke. Gaara said, grabbing the guy who was about to run. He flashed his eyes, but, of course, it didn't work on the Jinchuriki. That's what I'm talking about. If you do something serious, we'll never know where Naruto is. I know. The Uchiha growled. All his instincts said that he needed to run, search, save his beloved. He literally felt his heart slowing down, his soul beginning to ache from the realization that he could lose her. We don't know what's wrong with her, but we know she's alive. This is already something. Gaara said judiciously. If she died, the fox would already be raging, and we would clearly see it. The Kyuubi would not allow Naruto's life to be taken just like that. And she is not a weak shinobi to just give up. I know. The guy repeated. We need to find her. The only one who can know her exact location is Minato, but we can't just go to him. Itachi, sure sway, Obito might know something. And the Senins? Dog frowned. Don't think. I'm not even sure about Obito, because Minato wouldn't let her teachers know about Naruto. But you need to find the sensei, ask him, and it's better not to touch the Senins. For now, anyway. I'll find Shikamaru, connect Temari and Kankuro. We can trust them. Gaara said. Now I trust only you. The Uchiha shook his head. If you trust them, good. She'll be fine. It's better for them. Sasuke's eyes flashed again. If something happens to her, nothing will stop me. No more. I will destroy this village so that they will not be able to rebuild it. And Gaara truly believed that he would do so. He knows Sasuke Uchiha well enough and for a long time to speak with complete confidence about the strength of his love for Naruto and how the girl herself influences this man. In fact, Gaara won't even try to stop his friend because Naruto Uzumaki is his personal ray of light in his life. And if Minato or anyone else does something to her, then Gaara will do the same to them. I went in search of Shikamaru. The dog nodded. Where could he be? At our training ground. Or in the clan, I guess. Sasuke frowned. There is a possibility that he may be with the 7th team at the training ground, but then Temari is better off not going there. Of course, even in such a situation, the Uchiha could not help but be sarcastic. Gaara raised his eyebrows at this statement, not quite understanding its meaning. As far as Sabaku knew this guy in his home world, he was always faithful to his sister and there was not even a hint that he could be interested in someone else. Really? There is a young lady there who is showing increased interest in your future son-in-law. I'm afraid that if Temari sees this, there will be one less kunoichi in Konoha. And Shikamaru. You know him. He's not much different from Shikamaru from our world, so don't even think that he might be interested in anyone other than Temari. Sasuke protected his friend. Gaara folded his arms over his chest but nodded. I went. Be careful. After these words, Sabaku went towards the hotel, apparently intending to take his relatives with him. Sasuke looked after him, and then ran across the rooftops to his clan, fighting inside with a premonition of something terrible. First of all, after Gaara explained the whole situation to Temari and Kankuro, they went to the Team 10 training ground, where they usually trained. It was good that my sister often spent time here with Nara when she came as an ambassador to the Leaf Village. Of course, they didn't find anyone at the training ground. Temari shrugged her shoulders irritably, grumbling something. Then Temari, who was already familiar with Shikamaru's parents, came to his clan. Shikaku received the girl very cordially, but said that his son had gone to the residence on business in the morning and did not appear in the clan again. She sat with the guy's parents for about an hour so as not to arouse any suspicion, and, promising to come back again, she went back to the brothers, who were located at a local eatery. Do you know where Team 7 trains? Sasuke said that Shikamaru could be with them. This was the last of the proposed options, so if Shikamaru was not there, we had to come up with something. Do you know where he might be? He likes to spend time on the roofs if he is not busy. But there are a lot of roofs in Konoha. Looking for it on them is a waste of time. The girl said. I usually found him at the training ground or in the clan. What kind of elusive man is Shrek? Kankuro muttered. All this time that they were looking for the young Nara, Gaara talked with Shikaku, who was trying to somehow help his Jinchuriki. Although they were not close like Naruto and Kurama, lately they had established contact. The raccoon, having obviously learned all the benefits of friendship with the Jinchuriki, decided to follow the example of his older comrade. They began to talk, to establish at least some kind of trust, although there was no talk of complete trust. For now anyway. But the one-tail couldn't say anything about Naruto. He still felt the fox's energy in the village, felt that he was somewhere nearby, but could not tell the exact location. He knew nothing at all about his Jinchuriki, because he did not feel its chakra. In the end, Team Sand did come to the training ground where Team 7 was training. There they saw Asuma, Kurenai, and their little son, who was looking with interest at something in his mother's hair. The woman laughed while her boy ran through his curls, and her husband coached his students. Shikamaru, sitting on a tree, was obviously pretending to be this very tree, since he did not react in any way to what was happening. "Temari?" Sakura asked in surprise when she saw the girl. Then she turned her gaze to her companions and tensed a little. "Hi, Sakura." "Ino, Kiba." The dog nodded. "Asuma-san, Kurenai-san." "Temari." The woman smiled sincerely. They spent time together several times while their men discussed something and played shogi. Temari even played with little Kyoshi. And the boy was sociable and cheerful, so he happily climbed up to the dog, No. And now, hearing the familiar name, the boy also sincerely smiled. "How long have you been in the village?" "I came today. A few hours ago." The girl smiled. "So you needed to rest," said the awakened Shikamaru. He sighed heavily, climbed down from the tree, and approached San's team. After shaking hands with Gaara and Kankuro, he placed his limbs in his pockets and turned to face Team 7. "Obviously they came for me. It was great watching you train." Temari mentally snorted. Of course, he watched. "Asuma-san, you and I will talk about what we talked about later." "Of course, Shikamaru." After these words, Team Sand and the representative of Team 10 left, not paying attention to Ino's calls. Gaara had already guessed that it was this person who showed special interest in his future son-in-law, as Sasuke put it. "What's happening? You would not have come for me with such a delegation if everything was fine." Nara sighed when they arrived at Team 10's training ground. Obviously, this is connected with Naruto, because she unexpectedly left on an unclear mission a week ago. I was also wary of this fact, because she didn't say anything to either me or Obito. She just left, and the Hokage said that this mission was very urgent and secret. I waited for Sasuke and Kakashi to return. They came back with us. Gaara said. Naruto didn't go anywhere. She is here in the village. Shikaku is sensed by the fox. As I already told Sasuke, we have two options, either the Kyuubi was resealed and Naruto really went on a mission, or Minato lied to everyone and she is in trouble. I don't like any of these options. Shikamaru shook his head. Temari, Kankuro, we need to find Obito. Most likely he is at home. Tell me you are from me, and we need help. Brother and sister looked at each other and left to find the sensei of the 10th team. If he took her in for questioning, then we have huge problems. They can get into her head, and then everything will become clear, Gaara. I can guess where it is, but we can't get through there. My father hardly knows anything, because he would have told me if something had happened to someone from my team. This means that the Hokage decided to do everything secretly, without the participation of the elders. What can he do with her? Anything. And then he will make it look like the fox was trying to escape. He can even present Naruto's death under such a pretext. And no one will be able to say anything to him, because the fear of the Jinchuriki and the tailed beasts has not gone away. Shikamaru said annoyedly. He really didn't understand people who blamed the Jinchuriki for what the tailed demon had once done. Nara remembers how Naruto told him about her childhood in her home world, about how people despised and beat a little girl who did not even know about her origin. He remembers how people from this world tried to avoid Naruto when she was little, but they could not say anything, because she is the daughter of the Hokage. Shikamaru was never afraid of her, never despised her, because he was smarter than all the other people. The guy understood that Naruto was not the Nine Tails. Naruto is simply a victim of circumstances. I don't like all this. Nara pursed his lips. It is unknown why Minato took Naruto and what he wants to do with her. I'm not sure Sasuke will wait long. I saw him, Shikamaru, and he is clearly not in the mood for a logically thought-out plan and long shuffles. Gaara folded his arms over his chest. We need to find Naruto before he decides enough time has passed and goes to Minato. And I have no doubt that he will do this. Me too, said Shikamaru. It's unlikely that Obito knows anything, but Shisui and Itachi can. Did he go to them? Gaara nodded. Sasuke came to his clan to find Shisui and Itachi, but, of course, everything was not so simple. Entering the house, he immediately fell into the arms of Mikoto, who had not seen her youngest son for several months. Sasuke sincerely tried to politely tell her that he wouldn't eat now. No, Kaa-chan, I'm not hungry. I need to talk to Itachi. But the Uchiha woman would not be an Uchiha if she had not insisted on her own. Sasuke, Itachi is not at home, so you eat food. I'm sure I ate nothing but dry rations, and it could ruin my stomach. Sasuke ended up eating the delicious soup his mother made. Thanking her, he stood up from the table and went to the backyard to be alone and wait for Itachi. He didn't know where to look for Shisui, because he really was an elusive person and constantly disappeared somewhere. But luck for once smiled on the young Uchiha. As soon as Sasuke walked out into the backyard, he noticed Shisui walking down the street. Wasting no time, the Uchiha jumped over the fence and ran towards his brother's best friend. Sasuke, are you back yet? Shisui asked when the younger one landed next to him. How was the interrogation of those people brought by Naruto, Shikamaru, and Obito-sensei? The red-eyed one began head-on. Shisui frowned, but briefly spoke about the interrogation. He saw that the younger one was clearly not in the mood for a civil conversation. Something happened? The Hokage said that Naruto left on a mission a week ago. Is this mission related to these people? Sasuke noticed how noticeably Shisui tensed. He frowned, bit his lip, and clasped his hands behind his back. Do you know something? And do you know? Itachi's best friend asked point blank. Sasuke, I can't talk to you about this topic, you know. I already told you about the interrogation out of old friendship, so to speak. The Hokage forbade anyone to say anything about this until he finds out everything himself. Shisui, I don't care at all about these people. The Uchiha said honestly, starting to get excited. I'm wondering where the Naruto is because she didn't tell anyone she was leaving. This doesn't look like her. Sasuke didn't want to reveal all his cards, so he gave out information in portions. I've known Naruto for many years, I know all her habits, she would have sent me or someone else a note, but that didn't happen. I'm wondering what kind of mission she was sent on immediately after interrogating those people, without even allowing her to rest after several months of reconnaissance mission. I don't think you need to get involved in this matter, Sasuke. Shisui's eyes flashed. The younger felt his consciousness falling somewhere. The world began to spin before his eyes, and Sasuke wanted to sleep. Before Shisui could completely plunge the young Uchiha into Genjutsu, he managed to block it with his illusion and dispel the elder's technique. Did you sense my Genjutsu? Shisui was surprised. Did you think I was just called Uchiha? Sasuke's eyes flashed angrily. What do you know, Shisui? Just try to use the technique on me again, I won't look at the fact that you are my Nii-san's best friend. Are you threatening me, Sasuke? I'm warning you. Tension rose sharply in the entire Uchiha quarter, and two powerful ki collided on the road. None of the representatives of this clan were going to retreat. They stood opposite each other, their eyes sparkling and their hands clenched into fists. Sasuke, you're out of your mind. Calm down. You know this won't end well. Shisui thanked the gods that none of his clan came running to this show, otherwise they wouldn't have thought it enough. Where is Naruto, Shisui? Sasuke growled. Your girlfriend is fine, Sasuke. That's all you need to know. At least Shisui hoped what he said. I do not know where she is. Hokage-sama assured her that everything would be fine and she would return home soon. Of course she believed him. Does he have any reason to lie? Shursui asked a question. And then it dawned on him. Of course, yes, he has a reason to lie. The elder Uchiha had heard more than once that Naruto was not loved by her father, that he only saw her as a weapon for the village. All this time he believed that the Hokage could not harm his daughter, but what if that was not the case? What if Naruto gave reason to doubt that he had the Kyuubi under control? What if? Where is Itachi? Sasuke asked. He left on a mission a week ago. Shursui frowned. Beginning to understand something. Answer me 2 more questions, Shursui. Does my brother Mangekyo have the Sharingan, and who interrogated those people? How do you know about Mangekyo Itachi? He didn't tell anyone that he had it. Why do you all underestimate me? Sasuke grinned. I know a lot, but I am silent about a lot. Itachi conducted the interrogation of those people because he is fluent in the Tsukiyami technique. You should know about her. It seems the younger Uchiha really understood something. Do you think the Hokage ordered him to check on Naruto? If anything happens to Naruto that I can't fix, I swear, Shursui, I will destroy everyone involved. It was at that moment that the elder understood the thing that his father once told him. The Uchiha are a noble but vengeful clan, Shursui. They are merciless when it comes to their lovers. Uchihas are loyal, they find one love for the rest of their lives and will protect it to the last drop of blood. And if someone wants to deprive the Uchiha of his soulmate, then this person dooms himself to death. It is our soulmates who keep us in balance and peace of mind. It is they who do not allow the whole temper to break out, so it is very important to take care of your love. Shursui couldn't understand this before because he never had a lover. He knew that Itachi was very kind to his girlfriend, that he protected her and protected her even from his clan. He also knew that Itachi did not allow anyone to say or do anything in her direction, that he loved her immensely. And Shursui really believed when his best friend said that he would tear up anyone who harmed his beloved. But now, seeing Sasuke, he could say with complete confidence that this is what the power of Uchiha love looks like. It was at the moment of danger that Sasuke's love came out and showed what this man is capable of for the sake of his beloved. He could not understand how Sasuke felt now, knowing that the danger for Naruto was not fictitious, not invented, but real, because he himself had not experienced this. But he could see that the guy was ready to break necks to get his beloved back. Naruto woke up once again. Everything was swimming before her eyes, her body was numb, and her head was pounding like. Blinking several times, the girl finally focused her gaze on something resembling pipes. Looking around the room, Naruto was not surprised when she saw no changes. It was still the same damp, stuffy basement, lined with pipes along all the walls. There was no light here, only a small lamp at the end of the room that illuminated nothing at all. Naruto was tied to an iron chair, her legs were bound with chakra-restraining bracelets, and her head was attached to some kind of support behind her with a metal rim. Behind her was this terrible beeping machine that alerted her that her heart was still beating. She couldn't move her body, couldn't even send chakra through it, so she felt disgustingly weak and helpless. Kurama also could not help his Jinchuriki, because any outbreak of his chakra caused pain throughout his body due to the drugs that were injected into her for several days. The fox tried to slowly remove them from the girl's body, but it was a long and meticulous process that required enormous concentration. Naruto remembers the first time she woke up here. It was after 2 days spent in Ibiki Marino's interrogation room, after which the girl simply passed out for a good day. Uzumaki could honestly say that those 2 days were almost the worst for her. It all started the next evening after she returned from her mission. Minato called her to his office, sending 2 ANBU after her. Naruto, sensing something was wrong, asked Kurama to be prepared for anything. The fox even woke up from his sleep and became wary, he was so disturbed by the Jinchuriki's voice. When Naruto arrived at her father's office, he looked at her for a long time and began asking questions regarding her battle with those shinobi. Uzumaki answered his questions clearly, after which Minato again began to examine her from head to toe. Naruto felt tension and a small amount of fear emanating from him. But she could not understand what caused such emotions. In the end, he let her go, leaving an incomprehensible anxiety in his soul. It turned out that Naruto's worries were not in vain, because when she was walking through the alleys home, as she usually did, she was attacked by 5 ANBU. They worked as a well-coordinated team and were very strong and collected. It seemed like they had a strategy in mind, which made Naruto's situation much worse. The girl fought against them for about 30 minutes when she began to run out of steam. Kurama was categorically against using all her powers because then everything would end badly. Naruto knocked out 2 shinobi before the fox told her to surrender. If the girl had continued to fight without showing all her strength, she would have been knocked out one way or another, so Kurama decided that it was better to meet him halfway. Naruto was injected with some kind of substance, which even with her regeneration worked very quickly, and she soon lost consciousness. The girl woke up in Ibiki's interrogation room. He sat on the chair next to her, folded his arms over his chest, and grinned disgustingly. Naruto couldn't feel her chakra at all since she was wearing bracelets and she was tied to a chair. "What am I doing here?" Naruto frowned. "What do you think, demon?" Uzumaki was even speechless, because she believed that Marino was one of those people who knew the difference between a Jinchuriki and a bijou. This man, as Naruto remembers, did not care about her existence at all, so his current words were very surprising. "Did you think that no one would know about the seizure of this body?" The only question that was spinning in Naruto's head was formulated as follows: "What the is going on here?" Did Minato really think that the fox had taken over Uzumaki's body and that's why he brought her here? Kurama commented on this situation as a circus starring us. "I'm not a demon." The girl objected. "We'll find out." Ibiki grinned bloodthirstily. And then the real torture began for Naruto. Marino used everything on her, from cold water to small needles. He stuck them into the skin, reaching the very end to the chakra channels. When the sharp corner of the needle stuck into the thin walls of the chakra channels, wild pain spread throughout the Jinchuriki's body, which forced him to restrain his impulses to release the Kyuubi's chakra. Naruto didn't know how many hours passed before Ibiki left the room. During all this time, the girl did not utter a word, only moaned quietly as the especially sharp needles penetrated under her skin. Marino sincerely admired this monster, because if the fox was in the girl's body, he definitely had to feel pain. But the whole point was that the Kyuubi did not capture anything, and Naruto herself felt all the pain. Kurama could only watch the torment from the sidelines, only slightly healing her when Ibiki left. It was impossible to use a large amount of chakra, so one had to be content with a little. Marino returned after an unknown amount of time, bringing with him a man. Naruto's vision was blurry, but she recognized him as Inoichi Yamanako, the head of the clan and Ino's father. Obviously, desperate to get at least something out of the Jinchuriki through physical pain, he decided to get into her head. But the trouble was that Inoichi was under no circumstances allowed to penetrate the girl's consciousness. To penetrate her memories, he would have to go through the fox's cage. And Kurama, who was extremely angry with the entire top of Konoha, clearly did not intend to spare Yamanako. If Inoichi penetrates her head, then his consciousness will be absorbed by the fox, and all that will be left of this man is a vegetable-like body. Naruto didn't want to be blamed for killing the head of a powerful clan in Konoha. "I need space," Inoichi said harshly. Marino grinned and walked out the door, leaving the shinobi alone. "Please, do not do that," the girl said quietly. "You will die if you end up in my head." "What are you saying?" "The Nine Tails is inside me, Yamanako-san. He doesn't let anyone get close to him, and if you want to get into my memories, you'll have to go through his cage. The fox will simply swallow you up, you will not be able to get out." Naruto pursed his lips. "Why should I believe you? You can deceive me so that I don't find out who the real person is. I don't want your death to be pinned on me. I don't want you to die, Inoichi-san, because I'm not a demon. There's no point in me lying to you. I'm only setting myself up, because now they'll definitely suspect me even more of being a demon." but I don't want you to die. Believe me. Inoichi thought for a long time what to say to this. Naruto's sensory abilities were also suppressed, but she didn't need them to determine that the man was at a crossroads. He's not sure he can trust her, but he doesn't want to risk it either. I'll have to tell you everything you said here. This will make you even more suspicious, girl. The head of the clan shook his head, obviously deciding not to risk it. I don't know if the demon is talking to me or not, but thank you for telling me about it. I'm not a demon, I'm not a killer, I'm just a Jinchuriki. Naruto said in response. Give it to Kami, it really is. Yamanako left the room, finally looking at the girl with a strange look. Naruto was so tired that she didn't have the energy or desire to think about what it meant, so she simply closed her eyes. Her head was cloudy, her eyes hurt, like her whole body, and her chakra channel simply burned from the ordeal she had endured. Uzumaki was lost in time because her brain was completely unable to follow everything that was happening. He gradually switched off, wanting to forget all the torture he had experienced. The next time Naruto woke up, not in the interrogation room, but in a damp basement. It wasn't normal, but she was glad that she had traded that creepy interrogation room for the equally creepy basement. Maybe it was such a reaction from her exhausted brain, but the fact remains a fact. She tried to feel her chakra, but her attempt was unsuccessful. She was still chained, only now her head did not move. Naruto honestly didn't know what to do with herself. She didn't have many options, or rather, none at all. She went down to the fox's subconscious to ask him what he thought about this whole situation and what to do next. Naruto had absolutely no idea where she was or what would happen to her next, but she definitely had to get out of here. The fox eloquently said that Minato is the most disgusting creature in Konoha. It was actually funny to hear this from Kyuubi, but Naruto didn't say anything. The girl herself felt disgusting. She still didn't know exactly how much time had passed, but Kurama had said it was approximately 4 days. The moments when Ibiki tortured her again after Inoichi left completely disappeared from Uzumaki's memory, but the fox remembers everything in vivid colors. He said that the next time he meets this man, he will not regret it and slam him like an insect. Naruto's whole body was filled with lead, his head felt like he was going crazy, and his eyes weren't going to look clearly at all, so the girl, without even leaving her subconscious, fell asleep right next to Kurama. The next awakening was even worse, because she was awakened by the slam of the iron door, which reverberated in her head. Kurama, who tried to take away the pain of his Jinchuriki, failed as a trembling ran through her entire body and she hissed. Kyuubi, who, apparently, was also tired from all 4 days of torture, passed out and missed the moment when the Uzumaki was injected with some substance. When the pain subsided, Naruto opened her eyes and looked at the shinobi who had entered. It was hard to see in the darkness, but there was one thing that stood out, the bright red sharingans that shone right in front of her face. She remembered these eyes perfectly, remembered this pattern from her home world. The black shuriken on a red background is the distinctive appearance of Itachi's Mangekyo Sharingan. I don't want to hurt you, Naruto. The Uchiha said quietly, after whose words the girl was definitely convinced of the identity of this man. I know you're not the nine-tailed demon, but they need proof. I'll have to use a technique on you to get them. Itachi, you can't. You won't be able to get them. Once you penetrate my subconscious, you will end up with the fox, and this will obviously be bad evidence. Naruto pursed his lips. Just as the guy was about to say something, the door to the room opened and another shinobi entered. He literally swam closer to the Jinchuriki and stood next to her when Naruto could see him. Orochimaru. She hissed, and this vile guy laughed disgustingly. Naruto-chan, I didn't think you knew me. The snake hissed disgustingly. Who doesn't know you, Shreks? The Jinchuriki said angrily. And we have a girl with claws. The Sannin grinned. The esteemed Hokage allowed me to attend your interrogation. I'm really interested in your eyes, Itachi-kun. How long should she be kept here? The Hokage said about 5 days. He should have enough time to prepare everything. The serpent answered. Prepare what? But this is none of your business, Itachi-kun. Your task is to get everything you can out of the Jinchuriki. Or find evidence that this is no longer Naruto Namake's, but Kyubi no Yoko. Thus began the longest 5 days of Naruto's life. Itachi couldn't just leave her because Orochimaru was truly watching his every move. The Uchiha plunged her into Tsukiyami, where time passed even slower than in reality. He had to torture her because Snake began to suspect something. He had to interrogate her to prove that Naruto was not a demon. Itachi asked for forgiveness every time he said that he was sorry, but continued to torture her in Tsukiyami. He immersed her in Genjutsu, cut off the chakra of the fox, who then cursed the red-eyed clan with all kinds of swear words, did everything to make Orochimaru convinced that Itachi was not going to help the Jinchuriki in any way. Naruto was lost in time again, no longer distinguishing between reality and Genjutsu. She couldn't use chakra, couldn't talk to the fox, and Kurama himself was thrashing around in the cage, because all he could do was slowly remove the substances from the Jinchuriki's body that Orochimaru had stuck into her. Naruto was losing strength, losing her mind. It seems like she hasn't slept for a week, because her head was completely empty. All her thoughts revolved only around the desire to fall asleep and wake up at home. She wanted nothing more in life than to just leave here. Itachi, I can't take this anymore. The girl said when the guy plunged her into Tsukiyami. She was hanging on a cross, tied hand and foot, with some black creatures standing behind her, and the sky was completely red. I'm tired. You can't give up, said the Uchiha. I'm not giving up, Itachi, but I need to sleep. I haven't slept in I don't know how long. I can't think clearly, the girl said firmly. Naruto didn't know what she looked like in reality, but obviously her appearance wasn't exactly that fresh. She felt the frozen blood on her, which remained from Ibiki's torture, felt the wounds that had not healed. She felt every cell of her body, because they all ached from accumulated fatigue. She became pale, thinner, and her cheekbones became sharper. Orochimaru fed her once a day with some disgusting porridge, and twice a day he gave her some kind of muddy water. I can knock you out, Naruto. The guy pursed his lips. But it will hurt. Itachi, I believe you, the girl said quietly. After this phrase, the young heir's eyes widened, he sighed heavily, realizing the gravity of the situation. All this time, he tried to use the minimum amount of force so that Naruto would not experience too much pain. He cast rather weak Genjutsu and did not use Tsukiyomi to its full potential. His eyes began to get tired, his chakra was becoming less and less, but he needed to continue. If he is replaced, then no one will take pity on Naruto. He needed to play for time so that at least someone would guess what was happening. When he went with the next report to the Hokage, he heard that Sasuke and Kakashi had returned, so there was hope that all this would end soon. He just needed to bide his time. His Otudo will definitely come for his girlfriend. The next moment, Naruto let out a pitiful moan as one black silhouette pierced her body with a bayonet. The groan turned into a scream, which was reflected in reality as a ringing in Orochimaru's ears. Her pulse began to skyrocket and her breathing became heavy. Soon the girl went limp in her seat, and Itachi fell to his knees, covering one eye with his hand. The snake looked at what was happening with Naruto with a grin, and then turned her gaze to the Uchiha. What did you do to her, Itachi-kun? Orochimaru bared his teeth. What you shouldn't know. The guy rose to his feet, wiping away bloody tears, and then looked at the snake. She will be out for several hours for sure, and I need to restore my chakra. I can give you magic pills, said the snake, opening the door. Itachi looked skeptically at the back of the Sannin, who left the room, and then turned his gaze to Naruto. Hold on, help will come soon. Itachi decisively closed the door behind him, walked through the catacombs of Orochimaru, and went out into the street. He slammed the hatch behind him, went towards the forest, and there called a raven. After writing a short note, he attached it to the bird's paw. Find Shursui, give him the note. All hope was in my best friend. Itachi hoped that he would understand his message correctly. Sasuke didn't sleep all night because the growing anxiety in his chest didn't even allow him to close his eyes. He felt as if his heart was being squeezed with bare hands, stopping the flow of blood throughout his body and cutting off oxygen. His skin itched, his soul ached as if he felt all of Naruto's pain on himself. Shikamaru, Gaara, Sasuke, Obito, Shisui, and Kakashi, who was also eventually brought in, spent the entire evening yesterday at the Team 10 training ground, thinking about the whole situation. They were trying to figure out where Naruto could be, even if the fox's chakra was weak. Someone suggested that the girl was with the ANBU, but this version was immediately refuted. These shinobi may be elite warriors of the Hokage, but there are too many eyes in their headquarters. If Naruto was being held somewhere, it would have to be in the middle of nowhere, but close to Konoha. The problem was that they didn't know Minato's goals. What did he want to do with the girl? Why did he take her? The shinobi did not know the answers to these questions at all, so they only guessed. And all their thoughts were not the most rosy. Temari and Kankuro, who were not involved in the entire discussion, had a different task. The two walked around Konoha and listened to everything that people were saying. They didn't learn anything new, but they met Shikamaru's parents, who began to worry. More precisely, Shikaku began to worry, because something strange was happening in Konoha, but he could not understand what. Temari assured him that nothing bad was happening. The best strategist of the village, of course, did not believe her, and then the girl had to promise that if they needed help, they would go to him first. Kankuro, while Temari was dealing with future relatives, as he mentally nicknamed them, overheard an interesting conversation between Kushina and Yoichi. He knew Naruto's brother from the Chunin exam, but he identified Kushina from some of Naruto's stories and the guy's words Kaa-chan and Father Hokage. The Jinchuriki's relatives had obviously come to the market to buy food, so they were having a completely ordinary conversation about cucumbers and tomatoes. Until Kushina asked when Naruto would return. Yoichi then visibly tensed, but said that the Hokage had not said anything about this. The dialogue itself did not contain new information, but Yoichi's reaction certainly did. Could Minato's eldest son know something? Could he be involved in this? Did the Hokage trust his offspring enough to tell him his plans for his sister? Kankuro shared his guesses with Sasuke and Gaara, who unanimously decided that Yoichi definitely knew something, but they couldn't touch him. This guy never inspired Sasuke's trust, so asking him, even with the help of Genjutsu, is a dangerous thing. He will not be lazy and tell Namikaze to the elder. Obito, who was also introduced to new information from Kankuro, on the contrary, decided that he needed to use everything. It is unknown what is happening to Naruto, and Yoichi was the only clue. Shikamaru and Kakashi, who were the last to know about everything as they were trying to find out something through their sources, agreed that using Naruto's brother was too dangerous, but leaving him as a last resort was a good idea. There were also suspicions about Itachi. More precisely, Sasuke was completely sure that his brother knew where Naruto was, and that he himself was directly involved in this whole circus. Obito and Kakashi expressed doubt about this judgment, but the younger Uchiha was supported by Shisui, who knew his best friend and his authority before the Hokage like no one else. Minato could trust him with such a task without blinking an eye. Thus, they parted ways late at night, but even fatigue from the road did not help Sasuke fall asleep. He could not calmly give himself to Morpheus while his beloved was incomprehensible where, incomprehensible with whom and incomprehensible how. Therefore, early in the morning, he was already at the Team 10 training ground, training hard. He took off his shirt, revealing his upper body and his summoning tattoo, which had become even more vibrant in color over time. Sasuke did push-ups, meditated, practiced punches with his clones until sweat began to pour in streams throughout his body and his muscles ached from overexertion. He ended up leaning against a tree, dispelling the clones. After thinking for a moment, he channeled chakra into his arm and chest, summoning his beast. Sasuke, greetings. Ozumu growled, sitting down next to his comrade. The Uchiha placed his hand on the leopard's scruff and passed his hand in greeting. I feel confusion, fear, bitterness. What happened, Sasuke? I feel like I'm losing an important part of myself, said the Uchiha. The leopard, whom Sasuke no longer perceived as his summoned animal, but as a faithful friend and comrade, lowered his muzzle onto the guy's lap, allowing him to stroke his fur. He remembers how such manipulations helped Sasuke find peace of mind and calm, so he didn't mind. The shinobi told the beast all the events that had happened, while Ozumu quietly purred and growled when the guy touched sensitive places on his head. Sasuke, I know your whole past. I know you and something about your Naruto. The leopard began rudely. And what I understand is that you will always find your way to each other. Wherever you are, whatever you do, you always save each other. And now you need to pull yourself together and find her. How can I find her? Think about where she might be. Remember, you've lived long enough to know a lot about Konoha and shinobi. Ozumu stood up from his comrade's lap and looked into his eyes. You can handle this. How's Miho? Sasuke asked. As soon as I deal with this whole situation, I'll come see you for a couple of days. Mom is as sarcastic and grumpy as always. If leopards could roll their eyes, Ozumu would definitely do it. Bring me my katana, I haven't trained with it for a long time, said Sasuke. In the draft world, he learned the art of wielding a katana, and this was truly an achievement. The Uchiha remembers how he left the conscript world for 6 whole months in order to find the katana he needed in his home world and return for training. Sasuke traveled through several countries alone until he found a master who made the perfect weapon from chakra-conducting metal. When it was time to return home after all the training with the leopards, the Uchiha left his weapon in the summoning world so that, as Miho said, it would be imbued with the necessary energy. What do you mean, a messenger? Ozumu growled, but went for a katana. Sasuke sincerely thanked the beast and with trepidation took the weapon out of its case. The metal glittered in the sun, sending bright reflections, and the handle fell into the palm, sending waves of warmth and confidence throughout the body. Ozumu, contentedly chattering his teeth, left his comrade and went back, making him promise that he would not be reckless. After a little training with weapons, Sasuke literally soared in spirit. He put the katana back in its case. Then put on his shirt and attached the weapon to his back, feeling the usual heaviness. Just when the Uchiha was about to go get something for breakfast, Sasuke arrived at the training ground, holding something in his hands. Sasuke? Did you find out anything? Sasuke asked. Itachi sent me 2 letters. One was brought by a raven last night, and the other this morning. The elder Uchiha handed 2 letters into the hands of the younger one so that he could read his brother's incomprehensible messages. Sometimes you have to go far underground to reach the sun. It was written in yesterday's letter. Sasuke even thought about this thoughtful saying until the meaning began to dawn on him. The Uchiha began to remember that when he lived with Orochimaru, the serpent told him about his tunnels. They were made with a special technique that made it possible to hide chakra emissions. That is why their training took place unnoticed by other shinobi running past. Sasuke began to remember what happened to Orochimaru in this world. The snake was under the personal supervision of the Hokage, lived in basements and tunnels that stretched throughout Konoha. Obviously, Itachi had this in mind. They needed to go underground to Orochimaru to find Naruto. At least that was all that came to mind. Sasuke shared his thoughts with his brother's best friend, and he supported him, saying that he himself had been thinking about this since yesterday. And if Naruto really was somewhere in the catacombs of Orochimaru, then there would be fewer questions and more problems. To find someone in these holes and laboratories, you need to have a special talent or be a serpent. The sun falls asleep under the influence of the moon, but today is the day when it can go out forever. Said in the morning letter. They'll do something to Naruto today. Sasuke whispered. And Sasuke again felt something dark rising in his chest. He felt exactly the same as he had many years ago when he found out what Konoha had done to his brother. His eyes glowed dangerously red. The first thing Naruto saw after waking up was the gray ceiling. Her eyes couldn't see the picture clearly, so she blinked a few times to focus her eyes. The girl tried to move her arms and legs, but her attempts were unsuccessful, because, of course, she was tied. However, her head was free, so the girl twisted it to see where it was. It was some kind of gray room with an iron door. Naruto couldn't see anything except the couch next to her, only hear the beeping of the heartbeat measuring device. Well, her heart was definitely still beating, and that was half the battle. "Kurama?" The girl called her tenant. "I woke up," the fox said somehow tiredly, and Naruto sighed with relief. He was still here, so the other half of the success was in his pocket. "The Uchiha knocked you out, and then Orochimaru moved you to this room." The last thing Naruto remembers is Itachi's red eyes opposite her own. He loaded her into Tsukiyami, where he informed her that her interrogation was over and that they wanted to do something with her that evening. The Jinchuriki asked what exactly, but the Uchiha himself did not know the details. He was simply asked to be present in case of unforeseen situations. Itachi suggested that they wanted to extract the nine tails from her, and Naruto was inclined to agree with him. "I'll die if they take you out," said Naruto. "I won't let you die so easily. If they want to reseal me, they will have to work hard, because I won't give in so easily." Kyuubi growled. "Kurama, don't destroy the village again," Naruto said quietly, not thinking that the demon would listen to her. If this really happens, and the fox is removed, he will not be white and fluffy. Kurama won't allow him to just be sealed into whoever is there. "You mustn't give up, Naruto," the fox growled. "You know I never give up. I will fight to the last, but you understand everything. The chances that I will survive after extraction are very small. Uzumaki, for the first time in my life I regret that you are thinking rationally," the fox said angrily. "Listen, when you were being transported, I felt that the one tail was in Konoha. He must have felt me too. Your Gaara must suspect something. And the Uchiha is not an idiot. At least there is hope for that." Naruto didn't have time to respond as Shinobi entered the room. The girl tilted her head to see who had entered. Without surprise, she found Minato, who was looking at her with some contempt, and Orochimaru and Itachi, whose presence was obvious. There were also several unknown ANBU, two more shinobi she had never seen, and Yoichi. What the last one had forgotten here, Naruto could only guess. The brother looked pale, his eyes were glassy, and his lips were pursed. He folded his hands behind his back, and his whole posture expressed an extreme degree of tension. "Naruto-chan, how are you feeling?" the serpent hissed. "The best." The body went a little numb. "You know, a week of torture won't do anyone any good," Naruto quipped. "I have the strength to joke," the Hokage said in a deathly voice. He nodded to Yoichi, who walked towards the second couch to apparently lie down on it. Two other shinobi, one of whom seemed vaguely familiar to the girl, tied him up, and then stood on both sides. "So that's your plan." Naruto finally understood everything. "You want a new Jinchuriki, obedient and devoted to you personally. And you think Yoichi would be a great option, am I right?" "Of course I'm right." Uzumaki even found the strength to grin. "Don't you want to tell me anything?" "What should I tell you, Naruto?" Minato hissed angrily. "So I'm Naruto now." "Ibiki persistently called me a demon," Uzumaki said annoyedly. "You didn't think that my body was taken over by the Nine Tails. This was an excuse for your plan, am I right? You have long wanted to pull all this off, to eliminate me, since I was not an obedient little Jinchuriki, who obeys you in everything, Oto-san." "What are you saying, Naruto?" The Hokage smiled. "I want the best for my village, and your instability will one day be the death of everyone. If the price of peace in the village is your life, then so be it." "My instability?" the girl asked in surprise, not remembering a single incident except the one that happened at the age of 6, when she gave reason to doubt her adequacy. "Your ambitions will destroy the village, before external factors. You want an obedient Jinchuriki, you want to have power over him, but you cannot control the Kyuubi. Yoichi will not be able to cope with this task because he is too weak. He has no willpower or opinion, obviously because he follows you. The QB will destroy him. Remember how hard it was for Mom, who has several times more strength than Nissan. You don't know anything about your brother, or about me, or about your mother. Minato said. You do not know anything about me. You don't know what I had to go through to become who I am. You don't know what it's like to live with the QB since birth, to be a Jinchuriki. I never thought that you were so stupid as to decide the fate of a demon host so easily. How are you? The Hokage started. What happened to you, Minato? Naruto said quietly. Has the government really ruined you? If you do this now, you will pay for it for the rest of your life. You will destroy not only your family, your children and wife, but the entire village. It's not up to you to decide, Naruto. Namikaze snorted, giving a signal to his shinobi. Orochimaru, smiling carnivorously, walked up to the girl and stuck a syringe under her skin. A strange green liquid entered her body and almost immediately Naruto felt weak. Her mind was swimming again. Minato took out a scroll from his pocket and handed it to Orochimaru. The serpent licked his lips, and then began to make seals. Naruto realized that in this way they want to open the QB's cage, but the fox just won't do it. As Naruto's Fuinjutsu was removed, she felt a huge wave of Ninetales energy begin to bubble through her body. She couldn't feel her chakra, couldn't control it, but she felt the fire spreading through her veins and chakra channels from the burning power of the fox. Naruto moaned quietly, because it was beyond her strength to endure such pain in silence. The Anbu man stood closer to Naruto, right in front of the Hokage's face, and the girl could hear a quiet crack. In her home world, she often heard it when she trained, so she could not confuse the sound with anything. In front of her stood Yamato, who mastered wood techniques and wanted to protect Minato with all his might. But something didn't go according to Namikaze's plan, because the fox didn't try to break free. His energy was felt throughout the room, but gradually it faded away, and the orange chakra never covered the Uzumaki's body. Naruto felt all the pain go away and her consciousness gradually leave her, but she stubbornly refused to give up. What's going on, Orochimaru? The Hokage asked as Naruto's pulse began to go off scale. I can assume that the girl absorbs the tailed one's chakra. The fox does not want to leave the Jinchuriki's body. The serpent hissed. So pull him out, take Shrek's. Naruto didn't hear or see anything else. Everything was swimming before her eyes, and her only desire was to fall asleep, because she was very tired. The beating of her heart clearly sounded in her head, drowning out all other sounds, so she missed the moment when the iron door exploded and 4 shinobi entered the room. The last thing Naruto thought about before losing consciousness was Sasuke. She was sorry that she was leaving him alone and that she never had time to say words of love to him. We don't know exactly where she is, Kakashi said. Orochimaru's dungeons are entire labyrinths with identical rooms. I was there once when the Hokage sent me on a mission, but without the map that only he has, I couldn't find my way around. The copy man shook his head. They spent the entire day trying to come up with a plan that would help them get Naruto out, but they couldn't come up with one because there was too little information. Someone suggested simply following Minato, but this idea was immediately rejected. The Hokage was an experienced shinobi and would definitely have noticed the surveillance. It wouldn't even be enough for us to explore all his laboratories. Obito added his contribution. Although it was thanks to Obito that they found at least some worthwhile information. Minato's student remembered how Sensei told him a long time ago about secret passages. Then Obito worked in ANBU and was one of the closest associates of Minato Namikaze, so he trusted him and told him about the underground passages of the Hokage. These passages allowed for safe movement around the village and gave the Kage an advantage in the event of an attack on the village. When Minato talked about this, the passages were just being built, but one of them definitely led to Orochimaru's laboratory. The snake himself did not know about such unprecedented interference in his personal life, but the Hokage, in fact, did not pay attention to any whims of the Sannin. Therefore, only Namikaze himself, Obito, and several other trusted ANBU officials knew about this. Do you think Minato will take this particular move? Kakashi asked, mentally agreeing with his comrade's judgment. Obito said that Minato must act unnoticed by other shinobi, and his trip outside the village, this is where all the entrances to the Serpent's laboratory were located, would not go unnoticed. If he is going to participate in anything, then he would definitely take this move. Do you remember where it is? Shursui asked, looking thoughtfully into the distance. He mentally worried about Itachi, who again got involved in the political affairs of the village, but did not say anything out loud. If his best friend was involved in Naruto's interrogation, then he would clearly have problems with Sasuke, who was on edge. I need a map of Konoha. Shikamaru, who miraculously happened to have a map at home, quickly brought it so Obito could look at it. The map is old, but that doesn't play a special role. Konoha's borders have not changed since then. Obito picked up the folded paper and laid it on the ground, pressing the edges with stones. The Uchiha ran his finger from the residence to the north side of the village, pointing his finger to the place outside the gate. Around this place is the entrance to Orochimaru's laboratory. One of the moves ends here. This is our only lead. Gaara spoke, who was clearly going to participate in this whole show. We need to get out there, otherwise we might be late. Minato, as I saw with my eye, had just left the office. I don't think he'll come back here again. Everyone was going to participate in the rescue operation, but everyone had to restrain their ardor. Only 4 will go into the lair: Sasuke, who, naturally, cannot be dissuaded, Shursui, who intended to be a deterrent, Shikamaru, and Gaara, who also did not intend to leave their best friend without their help. Kakashi was supposed to watch the entrance to the lair, Kankuro was supposed to watch Yoichi, and Temari and Obito were supposed to go to Tsunade and Jiraiya to tell them a wonderful story and prepare them for possible victims. If the shinobi correctly understood the Hokage's plan, then Naruto would clearly need medical attention. Moreover, for several days she was subjected to interrogation and torture to an unknown extent and degree. Shursui said that if Itachi really interrogated her, then the consequences could be dire. The elder Uchiha, of course, hoped that his best friend did not fall into the clutches of the Hokage and did not believe everything that he told him, but in this life anything is possible. Soon, the shinobi were near the place that Obito showed. Near the hatch, which was located behind the bushes, they saw 2 ANBU standing on both sides. Sasuke and Kakashi, hiding their chakra, attacked them. For several minutes, the Hokage fighters were distracted, and Gaara subsequently knocked them out with sand. Then Shikamaru, Shursui, and Dog now showed up with their comrades, grinning. When Kankuro, sitting in the bushes, saw them, he jumped out to meet them. He said that Yoichi came here about 5 minutes ago, after which the hatch closed and no one else came. Kakashi-san and I will stay here, said the puppeteer. Nodding his head, Sasuke went to the hatch to open it, but his attempt was unsuccessful. Yoichi let the ANBU in, I don't know what they did to open the door. Sasuke began to remember everything he knew about Orochimaru's gadgets. He had locks based on summoning techniques, he had locks based on chakra, and he had locks based on weapons. If the ANBU were able to open the door without any problems, then most likely the lock was chakra absorbing. So, it was necessary to find the right place where to direct the chakra. Turning on his Sharingans, Sasuke scanned the door for residual energy. Having found the right place, he placed his palm and directed chakra. Soon the hatch opened. Lifting the lid, the shinobi simply hoped that Naruto was somewhere here, otherwise everything would end very badly. Shikamaru, Sasuke, Gaara, and Shursui descended into the serpent's lair, immediately finding themselves in a dark corridor. There were small lamps that illuminated practically nothing, but provided enough light to avoid crashing into walls. The shinobi tried not to make a sound, because you never know what could await them in this place. Sasuke remembers that the Sannin had his slimy little spies everywhere, who would report to him the slightest infraction. Gaara would occasionally turn to Shikaku, who would scan the basements for the presence of the Kyuubi's chakra. The demon said that he now senses the energy of his brother much more clearly, and this gave Gaara hope that his girlfriend was somewhere here. When the raccoon felt a sharp surge of the fox's chakra, he literally began to squeak in the dog's head. The Jinchuriki stopped so that his demon could feel everything more accurately, and then, at the risk of being overheard, he called everyone else to follow him. Only one thought was spinning in my head, just to be in time, just to be in time. The four shinobi ran along the corridors, weaving through them, turning in different directions, until they found themselves near a large iron door. They no longer cared about being heard. They just knew that Naruto was behind that door that needed to be broken down. Sasuke pulled out a katana from behind his back as Sasuke attached about 10 explosion seals to the iron door. The shinobi retreated far enough to remain unharmed after the explosion, but the same could not be said about the people in the room. Gaara reacted instantly and, throwing out his sand, grabbed everyone in the room and pressed them against the wall. Sasuke, firing lightning at his katana, ran into the room, examining everyone present. Before he could say anything, Minato freed himself from the Jinchuriki's grip and moved to the younger Uchiha. "Are you doing here, Shreks?" the Hokage hissed, shaking off his cloak. Sasuke, without thinking twice, pointed his katana towards Namake's and launched lightning. It was a good thing that the room was big enough so that Minato wouldn't fall on one of the people when the blue glow pierced his body. The younger Uchiha watched with sadistic pleasure as the Great Fourth crashed into the wall and left a scattering of cracks on it. Gaara, who knocked out 2 shinobi with sand, fought off the tree man while Sasuke and Itachi, who joined him, fought off Orochimaru and Yoichi. Since the Sannin was practically devoid of chakra and could only use elementary techniques, he was a weak opponent even for his status as a Sannin, but the Uzumaki brother was quite strong. Shikamaru, who had at least some medical skills, ran up to Naruto and began scanning her body for injuries, before removing her restraining handcuffs. "This is an attack on the Hokage," Yoichi exclaimed, parrying Itachi's kunai. "You won't believe it, I don't care at all," Sasuke said sincerely when he left from under the Hokage's attack. He understood perfectly well that the murder of Minato Namake's would be the end of his life, but he could not ignore him and deprive his pretty face of a couple of blows. In the end, barely restrained rage bubbled in his soul and the desire to kill did not subside. If the Hokage cannot be held accountable for his actions, then what kind of Hokage is he? Sasuke watched with pleasure as Namake's face contorted with anger when the Uchiha hit him with his katana. Using fire indoors is equivalent to cooking soup with vegetables. Sasuke missed a blow from Minato, which sent him flying into the wall and breaking through it. Once in the corridor, the Uchiha growled and made a series of seals, releasing bolts of lightning directly from his hands. Blue flashes traveled across the ceiling and then exploded towards Shrek's mother, making a huge hole outwards. "You won't get away with this, Sasuke," Namake said, appearing next to the guy. Pushing him in the back, Minato was at his side again, slamming his foot into his face. The Uchiha's katana flew to the side, and he himself crashed into the wall, and then fell to his knees. "You attacked the Hokage." "I don't see the Hokage in front of me. I see a moral monster." Sasuke spat blood, standing up sharply and moving behind Minato. He hit him with such force that he carved a strip of dirt on the floor. Jumping out, the Uchiha watched from above as Namake's rose to his feet. The Hokage jumped after Sasuke, standing in front of him. "The council will not ignore your actions. And the actions of your entire team." The Hokage's Rasengan glowed on his hand, and then the Uchiha created Chidori. The 2 strongest techniques were ready to fight, but their owners hesitated, glaring at each other. Sasuke's eyes glowed a bright red as the storm could be seen in Namake's gaze. "Do you think that he will ignore your actions? Do you think that the elders will let you get away with the fact that you intended to kill the Jinchuriki, put the village in danger, and create a new host without their knowledge? I'm the Hokage here." The Rasengan glowed even brighter. "It is obvious that your reign has come to an end, because we will achieve your removal." Sasuke grinned. You won't be able to do anything. Nobody will believe you. Minato took a step towards the Uchiha, but did not move any further. That's what you think. The Uchiha chuckled. You have no choice, either you leave quietly, of your own free will, so to speak, or you leave with a bang, disgracing several countries. Do you think people will still love you if they know about what you wanted to do with your daughter? You are threatening me? Have you just realized this, dear Hokage? Sasuke spat out the accumulated blood. He grinned cheekily and channeled more chakra into the Chidori technique. When Minato saw that the shinobi was not going to retreat, he rushed forward. The two strongest techniques met, causing a bright flash. Namikaze flew several meters deep into the forest, crashing into a tree, and the Uchiha fell on the grass, clutching his wounded hand. If he had put even more power into this technique, he would have been left without an arm again. And so, obviously, it was just a fracture, the pain from which was not even felt now. As Sasuke was about to approach Minato, familiar faces appeared on his way. Shikaku Nara and Hyuga Hayashi prevented him from reaching the Hokage. Sasuke, stop before you do something irreparable. Father Shikamaru said quietly. If you kill him, your whole life will end. Sasuke was truly sobered by these words. He thought about it himself, but at that moment his mind swam due to anger at the Hokage. When he first entered the room, he saw a pale Naruto lying unconscious. Then Sasuke really wanted to kill everyone who did something to his lover, to his soulmate. He began to think about what would have happened if they had arrived a few minutes later, if they had not made it. All these thoughts buzzed in his head, raising from his chest the most dangerous and terrible feelings for him. At some point, the rage completely rose, burst out, and Sasuke again felt the feeling that he had experienced throughout his life. Sasuke wanted Minato Namikaze dead. Sasuke wanted revenge on him for all the pain that Naruto experienced because of him. This was the same feeling that had driven him throughout his entire past life, and it was intoxicating. It forced one to act recklessly and not think about the consequences. Sasuke, calm down. The Uchiha felt his brother's hand on his shoulder. He turned in his direction and looked him over from head to toe, tattered clothes in some places, scratches on his face, and a small trickle of blood from his eye. Itachi looked no better than him. Leave the Hokage to the elders. Don't touch me, Anai-san. The Uchiha growled, looking at his brother with his burning eyes. I swear to Kami, I will kill you if you touch me again. With these words, he threw Itachi's hand off his shoulder and went down into the dungeon again. He noticed several ANBU leading Orochimaru, Yoichi, and two other shinobi out of the room while Gaara, Shisui and Shikamaru stood next to Naruto's couch. They unsealed her incorrectly. The fox had to hold back her chakra to prevent it from escaping from Naruto's body, so her internal organs were put to the test. Said Dog No, watching Shikamaru's manipulations. He tensely moved his hands with a green glow over the girl's body, trying to somehow help her. Will she live? Sasuke asked, without expressing any emotion in his voice. He examined the girl's entire body, noticing her unnatural thinness, huge bruises under her eyes, pale skin, and various kinds of wounds on exposed parts of her skin. Her eyes were closed, her chest barely heaving due to her breaths. Sasuke, before Shikamaru had time to answer, the machine that reports the work of the heart began to emit a loud, extended squeak. Nara cursed and began massaging the heart, connecting his medical chakra. The world suddenly swam before his eyes, and Sasuke fell to his knees. He clutched his shirt around his heart with his hands, because he felt emptiness and despair. He felt as if his blood had stopped circulating and his breathing had been taken away. He couldn't take a full breath, because his chest was burning with pain from the realization of everything that was happening. He didn't have time. Didn't have time to save her. He thought about how he didn't have time to save Naruto, couldn't find her in time. Sasuke thought about how many times she saved him, and that one time when he needed to save her, he was unable to do it. Pain, melancholy, confusion, anger and rage all mixed up. Sasuke felt everything at once, because the loss of Naruto was the biggest blow for him. His heart was breaking with pain. From the same pain that he never wanted to feel again. From the same pain that pierced his heart when he lost Itachi in his home world. It was a terrible, completely unbearable, stabbing pain, from which there was no escape. Sasuke felt that hole in his chest again, as if his heart had been ripped out, squeezed and thrown next to him. It was as if at one moment his whole life lost meaning. Naruto once told him that life is much easier without love, but without it there is no point. Then they had just finished the war, were not yet in a relationship, so he did not take this saying as it should be. But now Sasuke remembered these words, and the only thing that was spinning in his head after that, does it make sense for me to live on? Naruto was the first and only for him, and he will not be able to find someone else who will also fill his life with meaning. All the moments that always filled Sasuke's heart with warmth and something bright flashed before his eyes. Those moments that were an anchor for the Uchiha, that held back his rage and anger. Here is their first kiss accidental, awkward, at the academy. Here are their eternal arguments and quarrels, which always ended in a fight. Here is their meeting after 3 years of separation, and here is their battle in the war. He remembered their first real kiss, their first night together, their conversations about everything and nothing. Sasuke squeezed his chest harder when Uzumaki's face appeared before his closed eyes, her burning gaze, her sunny smile and wrinkled nose. He remembered how strong his love for her was, and how he never told her about it. Behind all these feelings, he did not even notice how bloody tears flowed from his eyes, and he also did not feel even a small amount of pain when he awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan. Sasuke, he heard Shikamaru's voice. Sasuke. She's alive, Sasuke. That was the last thing the Uchiha heard before losing consciousness due to the surging tension.